Hey, what is going on, guys? As you probably know, I am far from a graphic designer, but last month I hosted a webinar for my OG members, and I sent out an image promoting the webinar, and I got a response from one of the members. Shout out to Jason Hewitt, who was impressed with my graphic design skills on that particular image. Now, that doesn't happen to me very often, so I was, of course, flattered, and I recorded a little tutorial for Jason showing him exactly how I created that image in case it would benefit him or any of the other members. Now, fast forward to today, I am hosting another version of that same webinar, and so as I was about to create a new graphic or update the graphic, it occurred to me that maybe I should just share this with everyone in case some insight on my process helps you create better images or graphics for your own marketing purposes. So stick around, I will show you how it's done. Okay, so here is the image we are looking to recreate. This was from a webinar I did last month with Clayt for the OG members specifically. But it was really well received, and I think the content we covered is just important for everyone to hear. So Clayt agreed to do a follow-up webinar for a broader audience, and we're going to do that on September 25th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So I'm going to recreate this image. And I wanted to record the process of creating it because I had a few OG members say, hey, that's a nice image. How do I create something like that? As I have mentioned, and you probably have gathered, I'm definitely not a graphic designer. So I'm just going to show you my process, and there certainly might be an easier way, but I wanted to just document what I go through in case it serves you, or in case you want to steal any of this for images that you may need to create for your business. Now, the tool that I use is Pixlr, Pixlr.com, and it's free. I'm in Chrome right now, and I believe it works in any browser, but it is dependent on Flash, which is kind of an outdated technology at this point. So I've heard support for Flash may be going away. I don't know when, so at some point this tool may no longer be available, or Pixlr might update to use something other than Flash. But the concepts that I'm going to show you, from what I understand, are pretty much true for any photo editor. So I just happen to use Pixlr because it's free. So I'm going to start by grabbing an image of Clayt, right? So what I do is just really do a Google search for Clayt mask, click on images, and you can see it brings up a whole bunch of them. This is the image that I used. And then I'm going to right click on it and copy the image address. I could download it and then upload it to Pixlr from my computer, but Pixlr has a feature where you can copy directly from a URL. So that's what I will use. Once the image loads in, down at the bottom here, I can see it's pretty large, 2,400 pixels wide and 3,300 pixels tall. So I'm going to go ahead and size that down to something a little bit more modest, just so just so it's easier to work with. So for width, I will set it to 600, and that changes the height to about 800 automatically because it wants to keep those proportions intact. Now over here on the right, you can see I've got Navigator. This is what I use to zoom in or out. It doesn't change the actual dimensions, the size. It just changes the way that I'm viewing it here in the editor. I also want to make this wider, right? You can see I want like a section to the left next to the image. So in order to do that, I need to add onto the canvas. So rather than changing the image size, I'm going to change the canvas size. I'm going to anchor this to the right. I actually doesn't matter if I choose the top, bottom, or middle because I'm not going to change the height. So it'll fill the whole right-hand side of the image regardless. But I am going to change the width. So instead of 600 pixels wide, I want this to be more like 2,000 pixels wide. And what that'll do is give me a section to the left of Clayt that I can fill in with this content. Now, I think what I did was I just used the paint bucket, which if you've used any any of the like Microsoft Paint back in the day, it just fills in that entire section. Now the color I chose from this image over here. So I just hovered somewhere randomly on the blue, and then I just painted it in. Now you can see that on the layers section, I'm working in the background. There's only a single layer right now. So if I needed to move that around, I can't move it independently. But when I go to create text, when I go to add text to this, I'm going to default the text to white. It'll create a brand new layer that is independent. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about placing the text in the right spot because you'll be able to move that layer independently. So let's say live webinar with Clate Mask. I think that's what it is. OG webinar with Clate Mask. That's perfect. And then let's change the size to 100, maybe to 150. That's about right. We will right align that text as well. And let's change the font. There's a whole bunch of fonts in here. I happen to know that the one that I used is Skla, S-K-L-A. Okay, and then once you have it selected, you can click off of text and onto the little cursor, and that allows you to then move it around. So I've got it aligned right here. Then we need to add the date, so August 28th. The new date is going to be September 25th, so let's go ahead and do that. September 25th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and you can see, yep, that's right. I actually want to make that a little bit smaller, so let's go with like maybe 100. There we are. And we will bring that down over to here. Actually, I'll make that even smaller. So to shrink it down, I need to make sure that I have that layer selected, and I need to make sure that I have the text selected, and then I click right on it. And let's just do like 90. That'll work better because I want to make sure I have space to put that border around it. So the border is going to be just drawing a shape. You can see it doesn't let me draw into the layer I have selected, so I can't draw right into that one. So I need to create a new layer, which is actually okay. And then you choose the shape you're going to draw. So either a square or a rounded rectangle or an ellipsis or a line. I'm going to choose the rounded rectangle. And then I don't actually want this to fill in. I do want the border to be white. So let's change the border to be 5 pixels wide. And then radius is 20. That's kind of controls the angles of the corners. But I don't want it to fill in. So basically, all you need to do with this one is just draw a box around whatever it was that you are highlighting. So as I've done there, and if you got it, if you were off on your, adjustment, you can move it. But that looks pretty much like what I was going for. And then there's a line in between here, Infusionsoft co-founder and CEO. So let's do Infusionsoft co-founder and CEO, and I'm gonna make this even smaller, so let's do 75 maybe, and let's drag it over here into that space. Looks a little crowded, so I'm actually gonna move the live webinar layer up, so I can just click the up arrow on my keyboard and that drags it up, and then I can go to Infusionsoft co-founder and CEO. Now, I want that to look a little bit different. So I have a few options for that. One option would be to toggle the opacity or the transparency, like change it like that. Another option would be just to change the color of that text. So I could, instead of leaving it as white, I could change it to like a gray. So that's fine with me. Infusionsoft co-founder and CEO. And that's it. Now, on this graphic, I did have new date and time because this webinar was actually rescheduled. I don't know that I need that for the one that I'm making here because it's just one date and time. So I'm actually going to move all of these elements up just a little bit. So let's do live webinar with Clate Mask. And then we'll move up Infusionsoft co-founder and CEO. And then we'll move up the date and time as well. And then we'll move up the layer that was popping around it. And just for fun, what we might end up deciding to do here is filling that rectangle in. So we make sure we have the rectangles layer selected. And then let's go with like a peach kind of color. Like something like this maybe. And let's fill it in. Now you can see our text disappeared, and that's because we have that layer above instead of below. So if we reorder that, you'll see September 25th at 11 a.m. Pacific time is now in front. But that white doesn't pop out as much as I'd like it to. So let's actually make that perhaps the same color as the background. There we go. So now we've got live webinar with Clayton Mask, Fusion co-founder and CEO, and then the time, and it's highlighted. You know what? Let's add a little white border, new layer. What I was saying is once you have it to a point where you're pleased with it, you just orange border. That's fun. Let's add a white one also. How about that? And there we go. Once you have it to a point where you're pleased with it, go ahead and just click save, and it lets you save it directly to your desktop. So Clayton webinar, let's do September now. September Clayton webinar. And there you have it. Okay, guys, that's it. I won't pretend to be an expert in graphic design or in Pixlr or in Photoshop or any of these tools, but I wanted to show you a slice of my process in case it benefits you. If you know anyone who this video would serve, please feel free to share it with them. If you have any questions or suggestions for me or tips on photo editing in general, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Peace.